Hi, it's John. Welcome back to my channel, EV Intuition, where I help you understand about electric vehicles. A couple weekends ago, I hit the first anniversary of owning my Tesla Model Y. It's a 2023 Tesla Model Y long range. And I've been collecting data over the last year. And today's video, what I want to share with you is how did the EPA range and efficiency compare to what I got in reality this past year. So let's get into it. Before I begin, I remind you, if you like the content of my videos, please subscribe and also give me a like or send me any comments you have. In today's video, I'm talking about some data that I've been collecting in regards to my first anniversary of ownership of my Tesla Model Y long range. And as you may be aware, that on vehicles that you buy, in particular electric vehicles you buy, you have a portion of your window sticker that's called fueleconomy.gov. It gives you some information in regards to how fuel economical and efficient your vehicle is. Now, of course, electric vehicles don't have fuel in them, so the key figures that you're looking for in an electric vehicle is the range and the efficiency for the energy used. Now, I highlighted my fuel economy and environmental portion sticker, and the three portions that I highlighted are the green, which indicates the range of the electric vehicle. Mine had an EPA range of 330 miles when I purchased this vehicle. And then the other two areas that I highlighted was this MPGE area of 122. That's combined city and highway miles per gallon equivalent. I've talked about that value before. And then there's this other area called 28 kilowatt hours per 100 miles. And you can convert that to 282 watt hours per mile if you wanted to do the math on that. And that's what I'm going to use in my calculations for the efficiency. Now keep in mind that's indicating how much energy is being consumed in 1 mile of movement. A more efficient vehicle will have a lower number, so just keep that in mind. And obviously the range is something that you want to have. The greater the range, usually the better is considered in electric vehicles. So starting out, yes, what do we have? We have an efficiency of 280 watt hours per mile and a range of 330. So that's the EPA figures that was given on my vehicle when I purchased it. As a background, let's take a look at some of the factors that affect range and efficiency. And I just want to remind you of this. First is temperature. I live in upstate New York, and as you may be aware, cold temperatures do impact the range and efficiency of electric vehicles. So I'll be sharing some of that data with you. Along with the other factor is speed. Faster you go, the less efficient your vehicle is. And when I tell people about one of the big differences between an electric vehicle and a gas vehicle, I always mention this, because it's the opposite of gas vehicles. Gas vehicles are more efficient at highway speeds than they are in city, whereas electric vehicles are more efficient in the city than at highway. So very important, and we'll show some data on that. A couple other factors that do impact efficiency or range are the weather elements like wind, rain, and snow, but they affect all vehicles. I just point this out that you will lose some of that when you're driving in elements like that. And one other thing that electric vehicles have is that as your battery ages, it's going to lose some of that efficiency. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, my vehicle's just a year old, so we're not going to worry about the age. I think I really haven't lost any, or I haven't lost much in the way of degradation of the battery in the first year. Now, let's take a look at temperature efficiency. Now, I subscribe to this application referred to as Teslafy, which collects data about my electric vehicle. And this helps give me additional insight into how my vehicle is operating. So I'm bringing up right now a temperature efficiency graph that shows actual data of my vehicle as it relates to temperature, going from basically 5 degrees all the way to 100 degrees. It shows you a graph of actual efficiency. The thing I just want to point out about this is, you can see that the peak efficiency of the vehicle, now there's some anomaly in the 60 to 65 range. I'm not too sure why that happened, but in a general, using this as a general, you can see from anywhere from 45 degrees all the way to about 70, 75 degrees. This vehicle is pretty efficient. That's where it gets its top efficiency. So when you drop below 45 degrees, that's where you can see the efficiency of this vehicle trending off more significantly in the colder area than on the other side. When the temperature gets above 75, you can see it doesn't drop off very much until you get into the 90 degrees, and then it starts trailing off. And I haven't driven much in those temperatures here in upstate New York. Probably the warmest temperatures I've driven in is when I've been down south in South Carolina. So this gives you some idea of where the temperature and how the temperature impacts efficiency of the vehicle, and I find that kind of useful to know. Another area is speed efficiency, and I have a graph of that also. As I mentioned, there's a trend as the vehicle the faster you go, the less efficient you get, and you can see it's not a whole lot, but you can see that from the graph here, the peak areas of speed efficiency is usually between 30 miles an hour and 50 miles an hour. And as you start going a little above 50 miles an hour, it starts trending down. It starts trending down slowly. You're losing some efficiency. And then on the other end, when you start going slower, you can see slower than 30 miles an hour, it stops dropping down a little bit too. So that just gives you some idea of how these actual data of my vehicle, how speed impacted efficiency. I find that very kind of useful. Now, let's get into trying to find out how efficient my vehicle was. And the best way to do that for a Tesla is you go to the trip screen. And the trip screen gives you this type of information. If you look into it, there's one area that I call the lifetime of my vehicle. And this contains the total mileage that I've gone, and then it gives you the total energy, and then what is the efficiency as it's measured in watt hours per mile. And you can see that the average watt hours per mile for the first year of my vehicle is 262. What I'm going to do is compare that to what the EPA suggested on that. And then I'm also going to calculate range. But before I get into it, let's just talk about the type of driving I did. Last week I talked about the savings I did by paying for electricity versus gas, but you can see from this little pie chart that essentially supercharging and public fee is where I paid for electricity on the road. So more road trips, whereas my home and public free, I was typically getting free charging. So at least what this chart is saying is at least a quarter of the miles I put on this vehicle were done on the road. So just giving you some idea of the balance between local driving and highway driving. This gives you some indication of that, because everybody's driving differs. And I say I do more local driving than road trips, but I do a fair amount. Now, putting that all together, let's compare what this vehicle did with the EPA. Now, recall the EPA said the efficiency was 280 watt hours per mile. And we just saw from the trips graph that mine came up with 262 watt hours per mile. And that actually is better. Recall that the lower the number, the better the efficiency, because that's telling you how much energy you've used for every mile you've gone. So in reality, the efficiency I got on my vehicle, total city and highway driving combined, was better, and actually about 6.4% better. So that's good news. Now the range is another area that I've talked to about in other videos, and I've always struggled with the range, the EPA range, because I'm not sure how they fully calculate it, and I think it offers a lot of error in its meaning, or certainly a lot of confusion in its meaning. So the EPA range of this vehicle was 330 miles when I bought this vehicle. If I calculate the range using the efficiency, multiplying that by the size of my battery. Now, the size of my battery is 75 kilowatt hours. I actually did a test of it and it came out to be 74, so I'm just rounding up to 75 for that. And basically, if I do that, use 75 kilowatt hours as my battery size, and then using that efficiency of 262, I get an average range of 286 miles, which happens to be 13.3% less than the EPA's mileage, which said 330. Now, an important point to point out here is that since that time, Tesla has actually lowered its EPA range. And I think the EPA has gotten on some of the electric vehicle manufacturers and made their tests a little different so that they get more closer to reality on the range value. The same vehicle, the long range vehicle that I have now, shows an EPA range of 310. So if I use that as a EPA measure, it's still 7.7% less than what the EPA had. So I think this is important to keep in mind, because this helps guide you in understanding what you can expect to get on an electric vehicle when looking at the range and efficiency, especially in particular of a Tesla. Now, keep in mind, this is a mixture of local and highway driving. And obviously, if you do a lot of highway driving, the number goes down. And if you do a lot of local driving, the value goes up. In particular, I'm showing you a particular graph of some driving recently on my vehicle where I haven't done any highway. I was just driving around town, put about 100 miles on it. But notice how efficient the vehicle is when I'm not doing any highway driving. The efficiency is 212 watt hours per mile. And if you use that, you can calculate that efficiency, and the range that from that efficiency would come out to 354 miles, which is better than EPA. But keep in mind, EPA is combined city and highway, and this is just city driving. And the last thing that I wanted to point out in this video, because it's one of the things I came across. And if you watched my video last week, I showed a little panel of how many miles I drove and how many kilowatt hours of energy I used. And if you recall, I used about I put in over 5,500 kilowatt hours of energy into the battery. And in looking at this, I go, what's the difference? That's a big difference between the energy in how much I've used to the energy shown in the trip screen of only 4,500 miles. The question is, where's that difference coming from? And I also show in the middle screen Tesla's charge stats, and you can see that Tesla charge stats match what I calculate, but also Tesla varies from the energy it shows in its trip screen. And that's almost about 1,000 kilowatt hours of energy that is the difference between those two. And what I've read is basically on the right, the trip screen, which we've calculated that the car's efficiency, it's only showing that the energy it used while driving the vehicle. And that's significantly less than the overall energy that I have charged my vehicle with. And you may ask, well, where's that difference come from? And the difference comes from is when you're preheating the car or pre-cooling the car, or when you're using Sentry mode, which turns on the camera when the car is not moving at all, the car is consuming energy. And so the total energy, which was used last week in the calculation of the cost to refuel or re-energize my car, is a lot higher than the total energy used in the calculation for how efficient the car is. Because the efficiency only calculates energy while the car is moving. But I just want to point out that there's a significant amount of energy that is used when the car is not moving, especially if you got Sentry mode on. And here in the winter, when I preheat my car, I very often preheat my car before I head out in the winter. So those are all impacting the total amount of energy being used, but not calculated in the efficiency when driving. So I want to make sure you're aware of that. So in summary, what I found is the efficiency of the vehicle was actually better than the EPA, but I found that the range that the EPA gave me was much higher than what I actually get. So that's useful information for me to know, and I'm hoping you find that information useful if you're looking into a Tesla or any other electric vehicle. And I hope to see you next time. Thanks for watching.